it is to do tens of thousands of rides without such problems, a system that has trouble doing one ride simply isn't in the running, no matter how many roads it is willing to attempt. Yeah, see, things like that, it's definitely development related, but I also have to say that the infrastructure also plays a significant role. One of the things that robo taxis do is that they have cameras on them that can identify signage, roadway, lane lanes and things of that nature, crosswalks and things of that nature. And sometimes, if the software misinterprets signage, crosswalks, roadways, and lanes and things of that nature, then what happens here is it basically develops some kind of like Alzheimer's or something like that. From a technology standpoint, this goes off the side of the road. In computing, you see this too, right? With Windows, sometimes back in the day, like Windows XP, you would get a blue screen of death, and people didn't know what was going on with the computer. It will do a memory dump, or it will do a hard um, a hard error dump, and you had no idea what was wrong with it. Particularly because you had faulty memory, you had a faulty graphics card, you had a faulty motherboard, you had a faulty, um, hard drive. There was no real way for the operator or the person in between the computer and the keyboard to really determine what was wrong with the computer. But we never say that a computer is not ready for prime time. We'll always just reboot the computer. Well, with a robo taxi, you really don't have that option. You can't reboot the taxi, and I think that we have to create an environment that is clean without disruption to really determine whether or not this is viable or not. I think when you start using existing infrastructure like San Francisco or LA or something like that, places that are really largely have been defunded and underserved in terms of infrastructure development, it's really difficult to determine whether or not robotaxi actually works, because you're dealing with an environment that is imperfect to begin with. Making a robot operate in an imperfect environment doesn't really tell me anything in reality, because it's not the responsibility of the robot to navigate an imperfect environment. It should be able to, the environment should be perfect, just as you expect the robo taxi to be perfect too. I just think that, from a technology standpoint, I just think that there's too many in my opinion, I think there's too many ways of plausibility that makes these things fail when they don't really have to fail. I think that's wrong. I think that's a wrong approach. I would never sell a computer, by running, by running something like Call of Duty on it, and then it fails, and then say, oh, there's something wrong with the computer. No, well, if the person doesn't play Call of Duty, it doesn't matter. We don't know if it's Call of Duty that's the problem, for that matter, unless we're doing a complete deep analysis. But that's just my take on these things, man. I think that we should be involved in robo taxis and robotics at that level. All right, let me get to the next item on the docket. All right, this is from the Pittsburgh Post Gazette. Pittsburgh's getting a robotics factory. Speaking of robotics, Pittsburgh is getting a nonprofit robotics factory to create, accelerate, and scale robotic startup companies in the region, building on the city's growing heft in robotonomy, robotony, robotony, and autonomy technologies. Innovation Works, the Pittsburgh Robotics Network, and other partners are launching the Robotics Factory to accelerate the city's robotics ecosystem by creating for-profit startups focused on challenges that require robotics and related innovations. Innovation Works is providing $100,000 in a convertible note, mentorship, and other resources for up to 6 pre-seed startups during an intensive 7-month program that is planned. Applications for the program, which can be found at the roboticsfactory.org link, opens February 1st for 1 month. Real estate negotiations were underway for factory offices. Quote, not only will the Robotics Factory programs address existing problems experienced by industries that can be solved using robotics and automation solutions, we plan to also provide the resources and funding that are so critical to emerging companies. Quote. Innovation Works President and CEO Ven Raju said in a prepared statement, quote, together, the Robotics Factory create, accelerate, and scale programs will be dynamic additions to one of the region's most important economic engines. The Robotics Factory Accelerator program will move startups into the factory's co-working space, giving entrepreneurs access to manufacturing and robotics resources, including a production-grade prototype shop and robot lab. In partnership with Innovation Works, the Pittsburgh Robotics Network will provide mentorship opportunities with established companies in the industry. 4 years of support for the Robotics Factory is being provided by a $12 million U.S. Economic Development Administration grant awarded to the Southwestern Pennsylvania New Economy Collaborative and 11 County Coalition. The Robotics Factory is among 5 regional projects that are being funded by a $62.7 million Build Back Better regional challenge that the collaborative was awarded in September. This is really big stuff. I'll say this, because we're talking about robotics tonight. I think that we're moving in an era now where this is an emerging tech. I mean, robotics have been around for a long time. I mean, it's been around from a military application perspective as well as from a space exploration perspective. But now you're talking about consumer use, right? I think now is a good time for Black people to start really getting into robotics. I think the writing is on the wall. You know, $62 million is nothing to sneeze at when it comes to this type of stuff. And I think you don't need to be a rocket scientist to really get into robotics. You know, you can get into robotics like the article is saying in a 9-month program. But I want to, you know, now here's something interesting, that the population in Pittsburgh for Black folks is around 70,000, give or take. And so it's about 22% Black, okay? Almost a quarter Black. Actually, it's close to 25% Black. And so what we're talking about here is opportunities that's coming to communities that are distressed. This industry is not going to disappear overnight. This is something that's going to be here for the next 20, 30, maybe 40 years at best. And we're in the early phases of it from a consumer perspective. Now is a good time for people to really get involved in this area, especially when it comes to smart cities, smart application development, 5G, fourth industrialization is what we're really talking about here. So I definitely think that this is on point. Something I wish I had access to things like this when I was younger. We jump to the next item on the docket. All right, this is from the Robot Report. Autonomy launches new Autobot, Yeti autonomous delivery bot. We just got finished talking about robotics, right? Still talking about it. The goal of autonomy.io is to innovate and open the way for effective and environmentally friendly delivery operations. Autonomy successfully demonstrated autonomous deliveries using its worldwide pilots in 2022 over a variety of terrain and in a variety of adverse weather situations in order to offer long-term solutions for automating deliveries for several use cases at scale. Quote, during the validation process, we ran into pilots with airports, retailers, and postal services, which gave us the deep insights we needed on the most effective use cases and scalability, says Ritika Vijay, CEO and co-founder of Autonomy.io. With our strategic partnerships, we are in the prime position to fill the gap that companies like Amazon and FedEx were not able to. As demand and the use cases for autonomous unassisted delivery continue to grow, we are positioned to provide robots as a service for restaurants, retailers, and beyond. This is interesting. Here's a really interesting picture of this. Launching its robot as a service business model, Autonomy was able to speed up the adoption of autonomous delivery solutions, proving that fully autonomous delivery is a solution that works well, can be scaled up, and will last. Again, I spoke about that last article, that this is going to be around for a long time. This is not going anywhere overnight. The company is one of the first autonomous delivery robot solutions to operate both indoors and outdoors. This capability enables the company to focus on a variety of application opportunities. The company is actively pursuing the use cases that include curbside delivery, bringing grocery orders from deep inside the store to the curbside, where customers remove items and place them into their waiting vehicles. In 2022, Autonomy successfully deployed autonomous delivery robots at Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, CVG, Rome International Airport, and Pittsburgh. In addition, autonomy robots are used by Posten Norge and also Norway, as well as Gogo in Madrid, for automating first mile delivery and last mile deliveries. Autonomy is also working with industry partners in Canada and Saudi Arabia, with more launches included for 2023 in USA, Europe, and Asia. The Autobot 2.0, introduced in Q3 2022 as the first fully customizable modular robot featuring interchangeable cabins and specializations based on the needs of retail, restaurants, curbside deliveries. Designed with accessibility and directional mobility in mind, the Autobot 2.0 utilizes Autonomy's proprietary contextual mobility navigation to autonomously navigate through crowded and unpredictable environments. So I think a few years ago, we discussed about cannabis-based deliveries. And